Abushan aha possible TVGH. Any day coins way a news update and I yede babesom.
Then this is for we have a lot to say. Now though, we are going to the courts, and this is for our learning. It's for journalists to learn how not to fall foul of contempt of court, because our friends here, Azuri, Manasseh, Suleiman Brima, Mr. Apia, Professor Kwame Kaikari, have all been found for contempt of court in the Lighthouse matter. It's a simple matter. You need to understand that when a matter is in court, you do not make publications about it to the extent that you are making publications that may be prejudicial to the outcome of the case. It's not so much that as a journalist you cannot speak about a matter in court. That's not the point. Some people have interpreted it that way. Those who don't want to touch it, they just say that it's in court, I won't talk about it. Okay, that's to play safe. But those who understand it, you can talk about a court case. There's no problem about that. But you don't have to talk about a court case to indicate a prejudicial outcome. You don't have to say that this person is going to win or this fact was established, etc., etc. You just need a bit of training on that. And we've been talking about this for a long time. Reckless journalism is what makes you fall foul of contempt of court. And let me say it again. Reckless journalism. Journalism that is pumped up with ego. That's the one that when you do, you fall foul of contempt of court. So we're going to go onto the touch screen and show you what the judge, her lordship, said about why this group of people have been found contempt of court. Now, Kwame Kaikari is here because of his relationship with the Media Foundation for West Africa. He's the founder of it. He's the founder of the Media Foundation for West Africa, so that's why he's here. Get me back the photographs and let me go through it again and show everyone why they are here. Because whilst I'm talking about contempt of court, I have to be sure that I do not defame people as part of my work. That's very important. So why is Professor Kaikari here? Professor Kaikari's photograph is here because he's the founder of the Media Foundation for West Africa, and that organization has been held for contempt of court as part of the ruling of the High Court. Professor Kaikari is here. That's why he's here. This gentleman is the one who is part of the story, who puts it together. Suleiman Brima is also part of it. They've all been found for contempt of court. It's embarrassing, isn't it? You don't do journalism up until this level and then be found for contempt of court. When I get into the case, you will understand why they have been found for contempt of court. And who is next? It should be Manasseh Azuri. Yes, Manasseh Azuri is there, and he also has been found for contempt of court. They've been fined. I don't know how much how much they've been asked to pay. We have a packed program tonight, including that pre-seconds are seven a living God. So that's coming up, and then Awal is here for sports. That's also coming up. So we run through these things very, very quickly. Get me the ruling, and then let's go through it as our first story. Next story is Mutala Mohammed. Tell him that he should start watching Good Evening Ghana, because we are going to show him why from this episode of Good Evening Ghana, every episode we are going to mention his name until he renders an unqualified apology to our friends in Abosiokai and Swami and in Takrady, who deal with spare parts, who contribute to taxpayers' money, who contribute to Ghana Revenue Authority, and that is used to buy him Land Cruisers. We'll show you his Land Cruiser on the TV and show you that the taxpayer who bought the Land Cruiser for him, he's telling them that they are nobodies. Mutala Mohammed spoke recklessly. We'll get back to it right now. Okay, so here is the matter. In the matter of the court, Section 36(1) of the Courts Act 1993 at 459, the Republic versus Manasseh Azuri, Edwin Apia, Suleiman Brima, Media Foundation for West Africa, ex parte, Lighthouse International. Okay, so here is the ruling that the applicant is advised that the publications are defiant republications of this article by the respondent, that is Manasseh Azuri, and he has brought the administration of justice into disrepute and highly undermines the authority of the Honorable Court in the eyes of the general public, in whose name the court dispenses justice. This is what the court is saying about the journalists who claim that they are the best journalists in Ghana because they are investigative journalists. This is how low they've sunk the image of the profession. This is what the court said about Manasseh Azuri's work in the Fourth Estate relating to the publications about Lighthouse. This is what we have been saying, that what they do is crass. They did not agree with us. But now the court is telling them, this is not Good Evening Ghana telling, this is the court telling them, Manasseh Azuri, that your work is crass. That's what it is. It's below par. It's not sophisticated, and it doesn't build and develop the country. The work they do, this I catch you journalism they do, is not sophisticated. It's not intellectual. It's gossipy, and it is contemptuous of the court. Here it is, that the applicant is advised that the publications and defiant republications of the article by the Manasseh Azuri, the respondent, has brought the administration of justice into disrepute and highly undermines the authority of the Honorable Court in the eyes of the general public. Okay, now this is the beginning of the judge's ruling. and she's answering the question whether or not the conduct of the respondent, that is Manasseh Azuri, is prejudicial and therefore undermines justice. And now the judge is relying in her introduction on a book written by Justice Brobe, and she says as follows in his book, The Law of Chieftaincy in Ghana, unquote, the learned author, Justice S.A. Brobe, simply defined contempt of court as any conduct that interferes with or undermines the administration of justice. So the conduct by the publications in the Fourth Estate, by Media Foundation for West Africa, and the so-called kingpins of journalism, Manasseh Azuri and Suleiman Brahma, who know nothing and they think they know everything. This is what the court is telling them. They have conducted themselves in a way that interferes with or undermines the administration of justice. How can you be a journalist of so many years and say you're an investigative journalist, having good journalist, because you have camera all over your body? That's what they do, and this is how they end up. And that's the point we've been making. We have been vindicated. We started talking about this a year or two ago, that this is not journalism. This is not a journalism that we saw. The journalism that we saw as a news reporter, and that's why I say that I'm not even a journalist. I'm a news reporter. That's what we are trained to be, news reporters. Report the news, and then you can analyze the news. You don't need to film anybody secretly. You don't need to do that because you have a brain. So you can look at the report and look at the document and observe, tease out, and isolate contradictions where the politician is contradicting himself. You should be able to isolate it without having a camera on your body to film or listen to his phone call or follow him to his house without him knowing that you are following him. All that kind of balderdash, it's not journalism at all. It is spy work of sorts. Okay, so let's get into the details of what happened. Now, the judge continues. In the case of the Republic versus, she's citing another matter, another authority from the court, and he says that in that case that she's citing, the Supreme Court stated that one of the law of contempt is to provide sanctions against any words, conduct, or omission that are likely to prejudice a fair trial. The court in this case further stated that the contempt of court does not consist only in the disobedience of a court order, but includes every conduct that tends to bring the authority and administration of the court into disrepute or disregard, or to interfere with or prejudice litigants or their witness. So this is the kind of this is how low they've sunk the journal, because in the eyes of this judge, the Justice of the High Court who wrote this, she's going to think that, is that how Ghanaian journalists behave? You sat in my court, I said don't do this, and then you go and do it. And so in the eyes of the judge, the conduct of Manasseh Azuri is reducing the image of journalism in the eyes of the judge, in the eyes of all the lawyers who must have been in the court when she read the judgment, and then also in the eyes of the general public. This is what they have done. So I'm urging the Ghana Journalists Association to write to them and caution them that you cannot continue to display and express conduct that reduces the image of Ghanaian journalists in the eyes of institutions of state like the judiciary. The JJA should write to them and tell them, Mr. Azuri, whoever you are, you cannot continue to conduct yourself in a way that the court will describe as in a way that then brings down the image of Ghanaian journalists before institutions of state like the judiciary. That's what JJA should be doing. If I were JJA president, I'll quickly write to them that you cannot do that. That's what they do, and they sit down with pumped up egos, delusions of self-grandeur. That's what takes them here. Okay, let's move on. So the judge continues, and forgive me, it's a bit legal, but I'll try and deal with it. Okay, so Exhibit F just means that some of the things that the Lighthouse lawyers brought to the court, the exhibit is, you can call it the evidence. I mean, what they bring to the court is exhibit. You can call it, don't be concerned about the word exhibit. It's too legal. We're not going to that in detail. So Exhibit G is also one of the evidence. Now in that one, Manasseh Azuri wrote as follows, evidence. And he says how Lighthouse Chapel incriminated itself, but Senate looked away. These are the kind of statements they make. You know, the work Senate does is verifiable. It's documented. And then you come and write something like this without having the basis to write that, because you think you're an investigative journalist and you have cameras all over you and people must be afraid of you. So you think you can write anything. Here you are, falling foul of the law in contempt of court. Okay, and then another exhibit attached to the applicant's affidavits in support of the application shows clearly that this is the error, this is the offense of Manasseh, that there was a republication of the earlier publications by the respondent on their Facebook wall. For example, on the 25th day of December 2021, with the rubric Darkness in a Lighthouse Pastors Recount Abuse and Trauma Part 1. Now, the court is saying that this was a republication. Again, I tell you, they don't even have stories. They have to be republicizing the thing they've publicized already. intellectually they are bankrupt, so they can't produce stories. So they produce one story and then they rehash the same story. They can't think and write because nobody is allowing them to film anymore. Nobody allows Manasseh to be in his office anymore. You can ask him. No, but that's why he doesn't have a story. He doesn't have any story. Every day he's talking about lighthouse darkness. That's why the court is telling that you have republished the thing you have published already, which we told you don't publish. Why is he republishing the same thing? He doesn't have a story. Why doesn't he have a story? He cannot create from his mind. He's not a news reporter. He's a catcher journalist catching people. He's not a news reporter. He can't. Today, I've reported about 6 stories just by myself, sitting down and listening to the news and writing. They can't do that. They were not trained like that. They will not submit themselves to training. They've pumped up their egos and say they are some important people, when in fact they are not. It is called delusions of self-grandeur. I don't know whether it's a mental state. I'm not sure. But that is what they call it. Delusions of self-grandeur. When a man thinks that he's something and he's not that thing. Okay. So the court says that you went ahead to publish it again. Okay, let's move on. Another exhibit. This is Manasseh writing. Darkness in Lighthouse Part 2. Suicide attempts. Begging pastors. Then this is the other thing he published. Darkness in Lighthouse Part 3. Bishop Dark prayed for strength for me. And then another one. One finds captions like missionaries of Lighthouse are beggars. Okay, so the judge produces everything Manasseh did. Then now the judge comes to talk about the opinion of the court on these publications. And she goes as follows. The court finds as a fact that the title of the series of publications alone sought to paint the applicant as one that has committed. The applicant here is Lighthouse, viewers. Applicant means Lighthouse. So let me take it again. The court finds as a fact that the title of the series of publications alone sought to paint Lighthouse as one that has committed or is committing some wrong. In the affidavit in opposition of the respondent to the application by the applicant for contempt, please don't worry about affidavit, opposition, applicant, don't worry about that. I'll get to the meat of it. The respondents, that is Manasseh, point to the fact that the articles were made up of quotes made by others. Now, that is that's a crass response that Manasseh gave the court. He said that the thing that he published, it wasn't him talking. It was some people who said it. You are part of a suit in a court. You are part of a suit. You are a party to a matter before the High Court. And the High Court says, whilst you're a party to the matter and you are presenting your defense in defamation, don't publish. You publish and your excuse is that I didn't say it. It's somebody who said it. Listen to what the court said. You see, this is the crass thing I talk about. It's not, the thing is not there. You understand? It's just not there. Okay, so let's move on. This is the court says that he said that the thing that he published, it wasn't he talking, it was a quote by others. Full stop. The judge continues. Even if nothing in the publications are direct words or opinions of the respondent, the words that make up the titles of the said publications were their choice. This is it. I don't know whether they didn't do English literature in school, but if you did a summary and comprehension and all those things and you understood it in your school, you would understand that if you produce a title and you choose another person's words to fit in the body of the context, in terms of defamation, you have produced the title. Somehow they didn't know that. Why didn't they know that? Because they have pumped up egos. Pumped up. Delusions of self-grandeur. They pumped up egos. Now the court has fined them. They will go and pay the fine. And the JJA should rise to them to criticize them for this kind of behavior that lowers the image of journalism in Ghana. It is about these people that sometimes journalists have to struggle for respect because of this kind of crass conduct of people like Manasseh, Azuri. If you're a journalist and you go to the court, they will be shouting on you. Hey, journalists, sit down. Sit. Why? Do they tell that to the British journalists when he's in the British court? They don't. They respect them. Why don't they respect us? Because of Manasseh Azuri's crass behavior, which is not how we were trained. No way. That's not how we were trained. But they come from nowhere and they say they have camera over their body and they are covering people and they have a story and all of that, you see. And then they get sacked from their company because of these kinds of behavior. And they are still doing it. You get sacked by a company, now you are in contempt of court. You will still not learn a lesson. You should take a book and read. Then his mind will open up. Suleiman Brahma, read a book, okay? All right. Now, this is what the thing says. It says, even if nothing in the publications are direct words, opinions of the respondent of Manasseh Azuri, the words that make up the titles of the said publication were his own words. Let's move on. The choice of titles like Darkness in the Lighthouse and Evidence, how the Lighthouse Chapel incriminated itself but Smith looked away, Exhibit KI, are suggestive of the guilt of the applicant and, in my opinion, in the opinion of the court, prejudicial to fair trial of the case. In some parts of the publication, particularly under the title Evidence, how the Lighthouse Chapel incriminated itself, but Smith looked away. The second respondent, which is Suleiman Brahma or Edwin Appiah, I don't know who, sought to analyze some evidence and suggest that the applicants had incriminated itself. The matter is on trial. It's before a trial of a court. Guy who is a party to the matter calls himself a journalist, and he writes and says that the people had incriminated themselves when the matter is still before the court. Let's move on. The interview granted by Manasseh Azuri to the pastors, that the judge says, fell short of witness statements of the pastors only because they were not procured through the court process. That's what the lady is saying. And they have a lawyer. They have a lawyer of reputable image. And this is what they did. The court is telling them that you went to interview a pastor whilst the pastor was on trial in a matter with you involved. You are not just a reporter. You are part of the case. Then you interview the pastor and obtain evidence, so-called evidence from the pastor, evidence directly relating to the conduct of the case, and then you publish it. And the court says you did not obtain that from the court. So once the trial has started, you cannot publish anything about it. I don't know whether they don't understand these things, but this is where we are. It's written by Justice Harriet Akwele-Kwe, counsel for applicant Felix Ejekum-Boateng for Kweku Y. Paintil, present, and counsel for the respondent Samson Ladi Ayenini, also present. Samson Ladi was the lawyer, and he lost the case. He lost the contempt application. Put their photographs there. Let's say goodbye to them. We have managed to do it in a very short time, but they should be cautious that these things don't. Manasseh, go and read the book, Repent, understand. Repent from your delusions of self-grandeur and stop putting camera everywhere on your body. Now nobody wants to talk to him anymore. He goes to office, hey, Manasseh is coming, hey, go away. No, because they know that he has come with camera here, his spectacles, his camera, all that. He calls you, my name is Manasseh, hey, they cut the call because he's recording. He won't tell you that he's recording. That's what they do. So nobody is talking to them anymore. So they don't have story. For Thursday, check whether every week they publish. We are here Tuesday and Thursday. Every day we have a story. 20 years running.